In this unit of central tendency, we're going to be investigating ways to present data and also ways in which to measure data, doing such things as finding the mean, the median, the mode, etc. But for now, we're going to focus on presenting the data. And one way we can do that is by way of a stem and leaf plot. So that's what we're going to talk about today. A stem and leaf plot essentially is a table in which we have two columns. So we're going to have, actually what I'll do now is I'll just draw a vertical line, and we're going to have a left column and a right column. Now the left column is made up of what we refer to as the stem, and the right column is referred to as the leaf. And where those numbers come from is from a set of data. Now you can see in the table off to the left here that this is a set of data that represents the number of minutes that students typically spend on non-school related activities on their device when they're in study hall. And I don't know about you, but I would say this is a fairly accurate picture. But you can see that the numbers are broken down. The tens values are all in blue and the ones values are all in red. Now, when we present this data in a stem and leaf plot, we're going to be using the blue numbers, the numbers that represent the tens value, as our stem. So in this case, for example, that value 47, the 4 is going to be a stem value, and the 7 is going to be a leaf value, okay? So as we present this data, we just want to make sure that we present it in order. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at all of my values that are going to represent stems. See that I have numbers in the 30s. I see I have numbers in the 40s. Let's see, I have some numbers in the teens. I don't have anything in the 20s, but what that tells me is that my range of values is going to be, well, my lowest number is going to be 11, something in the teens, all the way up to something in the 40s. So as I start to list my values for stems, I'm going to list a stem value of 1 because I'll have numbers in the teens. Although I don't have any values in the 20s, I'm not going to skip that. So I'm going to list a 2. And then I'm going to move on to the 3 for any of the values in this data that are values representing minutes that are 30 some odd minutes, and then ultimately 4 for any number of minutes that are in the 40s. So that takes care of our stems. Now what we're going to do is to go back and look at our data to determine our leaf values. So as I go through my data, every time I find a value, and I'm going to start listing my leaves in order, every time I find a value that starts with the 1 in blue, a value in the teens, I'm going to list the leaf value that goes with it over in this right side column. So this value of 11 is the lowest value I have. So the 1 in blue is the tens place, and the 1 in red I'm going to list over here is the ones place. So we would read this 1 and this 1 together as 11. That represents this piece of data right here. I'll continue this process, so moving in order, in increasing order with my leaves for each row. So as I continue along, I can see that I have a value of 14. So I'm going to list a 4 as a leaf. And then I have a value of 19. So I'm going to list a 9 as a leaf as well. So that tells me that for my data, I have a value of 11, that's the 1, 1, a value of 14, the 1 and the 4 put together as a number, and a value of 19, the 1 and the 9 put together. And you notice my leaves flow in order from least to greatest, just as my stems flow in order downward from least to greatest. So as we move on with the data, we notice that we don't have any values in the 20s. So we're not going to put a 0 there because that would, if I put a 0 there, that would mean that I have an actual piece of data that represents 20 minutes, and that's not the case. By leaving this row empty, that just tells me there isn't going to be any data that has any value in the 20s. So I can continue moving on to the 30s. I can see I have a bunch of values in the 30s. So let's just make sure we get them all. Starting with the lowest value, I have 38. Oh, I have a 32. That's that value right there. Now, as long as I have more than one value of 32, I have to list the 2 that number of times. So I have a 32 here. I have a 32 there. So I'm going to list that 2 again. Let's see, I'm continuing to look on. You notice I'm being careful to find my values in order. I don't have any 33s. I do have 34, so I'm going to list the 4. As I continue, I have a 35. And I have, it appears to be a 36. And let's see, I have a 37. I'm sorry, I don't have a 37. I have a 38 and I have a 39. So I have a 38, there's an 8, and I have a 39, there's the 9. And then we're going to move on to our values of the 40s because it looks like I've taken care of all of my values in the 30s in order. So let's move on to the 40s. The lowest value of 40 that I have is 40. So I'll put a 0 there. And then I'll move on to the next value in order, which appears to be 43. And then we have, notice we've got 1, 2, 3 45s. So I'm going to list 3 5s. And then I have a 46. And it appears I have a 47 as well. Okay. So let's just make sure I didn't miss any. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I should have 18 values of data. Let's make sure, in the way I can check that is to count the number of leaves I have. I should have 18 leaves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I've clearly missed a value someplace. So let me go back. I have, oh, I can see I missed a 45 right there. So I'm going to erase. I'm going to add that extra 5 in. And then I'm going to go back to my 46. And then I'm going to go to my 47. And now I should have all my values. So if you count up one more time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That covers all 18 pieces of data. Now, the last thing you'll want to do is to make a key. That allows us to interpret the data. So in our key, we write the word key, and I take any one of my pieces of data. So I'm going to take like this 3, 2, the 3 representing the stem, the 2 representing the leaf. And I'm going to show that the way I interpret that is to mean that it represents the data value of 32. So that is my key, and that's just as important. So there's your stem and leaf plot. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to create a stem and leaf plot for the data that I asked you to use from class today. And feel free to color coordinate it as well, just as I've done here. So be creative with it. But if you need any reminders of how to construct it, please go back to this video and be ready to hand in your stem and leaf plot for the class data tomorrow.